Yes, welcome. It's Destination Newry. It's Rowan Hand. It's the morning show. Feargal McCormack, you're very welcome.
Morning,
Before we
Rowan.
start, who's the Lee in Warren Point has died? There's a Dara Lee, Mrs. Lee of Warren Point. Who is that?
A lovely lady. Mrs. Lee would have been the wife of the late Michael Lee,
The optician.
the optician, and she would have 4 children, Fiona and Michelle. Fiona is chartered accountant, married to a chartered accountant in Dublin. Michelle, who's lived in Warren Point all her time,
Yes.
Magdalloch, and formerly worked in St.
Yes.
Catherine's College. The chiropodist in Warren Point, Shane Lee.
Shane Lee.
And the youngest would be Martin Lee. Martin had a very distinguished banking career overseas.
You have your finger on the pulse of Warren Point, I tell you.
Well, the Lees are
yeah.
a very distinguished, very distinguished.
He was an iconic man.
Very active in charity in the Rotary
Yeah.
Club, etc. And indeed, his family have always made a very positive contribution to the area. Shane is a local chiropodist and will be well known in the area.
How long has he gone, MP Lee gone now? It's almost like it seems as though he inhabited another world. It's so long ago.
I don't know the answer to that, but I think it's certainly well over 20 years.
It is sure.
But I could be wrong.
No, I think you're right. It is over 20 years. The people in the Republic are starting to get a few bob left over each month. They're able to save €49. That's what they have after paying all the bills according to the credit union survey. That's going in the right direction, although it is little enough.
Well, I think without doubt the positive trends are continuing from an economic perspective, and you're seeing that in the south. I think it's now recognised perhaps as the second most important digital country in the world, which is amazing given its size.
Absolutely.
And then you had the very encouraging report from IMF yesterday, the UK, where they're estimating now that the UK growth for 2014 will exceed their original forecast of 1.9%, will actually grow to 2.4.
Yeah.
2.4 is getting into significant territory. So
Will there be a knock-on for us?
yes, yes, without doubt. And you can see it. I mean, I can see it at the coalface. It's challenging times because, to be honest with you, I'm not sure you're going to see, despite the credit union survey in the south, I think that it'll take a while for the cost of living to improve.
Yeah.
But I think because I think we all have to recognise that we were living beyond our means. Our competitiveness had gone, and I think we'll not have to learn that lesson twice. We've got to remain competitive. So I don't see wages.
Hurt once.
I don't see wages, for example, growing because we can't afford them. We're not. Unfortunately, we have to get paid on the basis of output as opposed to what we think
Hopefully,
is fair.
it's one thing wages remaining stable and static, but one hopes that prices will not sort of soar.
Well, you had encouraging news
because equally that can tear the backside out of it as well.
But you there is no doubt about it. The real cost of living has increased considerably over the last 4 years. However, again, you must look at the positivity here. The inflation figures confirmed by the Bank of England last month were the lowest for some time actually. So it looks as if inflation is back under their target. So that's why I'm saying I don't expect wages to increase because I expect prices to stabilise.
Is there such a thing as an acceptable or a necessary level of inflation?
Well, I'm not sure there's an acceptable level of inflation, but certainly it's acknowledged that inflation below 2% creates the right environment for economic growth.
Family business, economic growth, it's all important because family is maybe the way forward in terms of getting off the hobby horse of public funding.
Yeah, well, I mean, in terms of family business, I mean, over 80% of our businesses are family business of some, or if not family, privately owned businesses. Interestingly, actually, I'm giving a workshop for Invest NI the next 4 Thursdays. The first one is in Newry in the Canal Court, and then Belfast and Ballymena, or sorry, not Ballymena, I think it's Derry and Enniskillen. But it's focusing on family business, and there are a number of unique characteristics associated with a family business. It's the relationships, but it's the subtlety between business and family. It's the relationships between family members and non-family members. It's the area of succession. It's the area of benchmarking, because if you stay in the business yourself 80 hours a week, well, if you're not making a profit, there's something wrong. The business must be inefficient.
Yeah. It sounds like a plot for a murder mystery. It's in there. Family and intrigue and who's doing what and what are the relationships.
No, I think there's a lot of benefits of family business, but I think it is unfortunate that people don't recognise that there are equally issues, and those issues can be converted into very positive results. But I think that you cannot deny that if you take the family business, you have some members of the family who will be working in the business. You have some perhaps that won't be working in the business. You have some perhaps who will have an equity share in the business and will take nothing to do with it. But the big point is, and I think this is a really important point, and it comes back to the comment we made on wages earlier on. No matter what the business is, it's important you get remunerated for what you do, not because you're blood. And if you're there 80 hours a week, you're entitled to get paid. Now, obviously not necessarily because your loyalty and commitment to the business, maybe not necessarily at full rates, but you are entitled to get paid, because where the frictions can arise is that somebody who's worked in the business, say, for 10 years and a sibling comes along and, they say, well, why are they being treated equal? Well, so long as you've been paid for the previous 10 years, you can't complain.
You can't complain. One of the great family business, I knew him very well, Pat the baker, Pat Higgins, in Granard.
Very good business.
Lovely man. He's passed away now, but I went to see him, did a nationwide program with him, and he was very, very supportive of my work in Africa. And I remember sitting with him in the house that he went into 50 years ago, when he first got married, in the middle of Granard. A wee two up and two, whatever, two up and two down.
Well,
and there he was saying, I was saying to him, God, Pat, coming in here today, magnificent houses there. I never saw the like of it, the size of the houses that are around. They've got house-sized garages. He says, Rowan, I tell you this, he said, I've seen it all before. Time out of number, he said, and it happens in family businesses. He said, clogs to clogs in one generation.
Well, to be fair, it's ironic. I'm actually meeting Genesis, McCormack's bakery today. Yeah. And it's a phenomenal success family story. I mean, the 5 brothers are there to start. In Magherfelt.
By the way, give them my regards. That's another nationwide idea.
Well, there you are.
I'm into the bakery a lot.
Well, basically, the mum and dad started that, and they're still living and still involved in the business.
They are.
And
Prince Charles went to see them when he visited.
He did, indeed. And Brian McCormack, who's the managing director now.
Nice man.
Brian, to be fair, has transformed that business over the years in taking family values and family cultures with him and getting the support of his family, but equally applying commercial rationale.
Lovely little restaurant in there as well in the business.
Yes.
So they've diversified and continued to do that.
Yeah.
On the international scale, Eamon Gilmore, Arlene Foster, and the Transport Minister from England, they're heading off to Singapore to the air show to hope, and they'll be leading a delegation, a trade delegation, people from the 3 jurisdictions, going with them to try and drum up business.
Well, I think that's very encouraging. It's very encouraging that trade missions are going out from the island north and south and linking.
That's what you said all the time.
And linking east-west.
Get out there. That's your mantra.
So I think that's very good. And I suppose in terms of internationalism, I must give a plug. We've the annual FPM Leadership Lecture, which is held in association with the Management Leadership Month and also the University of Ulster. We hosted it.
You keep that very quiet, sir.
Well, no, it's a major event.
I know it's a major event.
The first
You're very modest about it. I haven't heard you talk about this before.
Well, first 2 years ago we had Dennis O'Brien, last year Martin Naughton. And this year we have Sir John Parker. So it's the 28th of February. That's always a sellout.
Of course it is.
But you're talking about international business. Sir John Parker has a very impressive CV as well. So we're very delighted with that. And I suppose another international business, when I'm speaking, you're asking what I'm doing these days. Thankfully, we're very busy. We're hosting a breakfast briefing here for the haulage sector. We're finding the haulage sector requires quite specific business and financial advice, particularly in terms of their management information software, in terms of warehousing, in terms of storage, in terms of delivery. So we have been involved in the involvement of a project, and we expect to have significant players in the haulage sector, north and south, at an event we're doing on the 19th of February.
19th. It's a huge thing, because I see the maritime end of haulage. I see Warren Point Port, and I see Sea Truck. Beautiful new ships there operated by Sea Truck.
Well, they've invested very heavily in that.
That's a big investment. You don't buy a ship for sixpences.
No, I could be wrong here, but I think it's somewhere near 90 million, between 70 and 90 million.
That's big. That's big confidence.
Well, these are the type of investments that perhaps go unnoticed now and again, but they're fundamental. And the whole logistics industry is really so important, particularly to a place like Ireland, which is surrounded by water. But there are people. The haulage industry went through a difficult time But there are now people doing exceptionally well in it, but it's a very competitive sector, a very competitive business. And it's a business where service levels are demanded at the highest level.
Well, you've said it before on this program, good companies get good people, and good people within the company guarantee high levels of service where the customer is priority.
Well, life and business is all about people.
I love that mantra of yours. Life and business, all about people. I understand that. It's because if you, at times when people go on the slippery slope to fiscal oblivion, they lose the contact with people. There's a kind of mentality that they become introspective and don't any longer outreach.
Well, I think it's important, like everything, you need balance. So, people who aren't enhancing technology to improve their capability will fall out. People who aren't willing to be flexible and change with the moving environment and the moving markets will fall behind. So, people in isolation won't achieve it. But people, ultimately, it's the judgments of people. It's the personal relationships of people. It's the vision of people. It's the commitment of people. It's the passion of people in any form of life, which ultimately delivers results.
You see, I understand exactly what you're talking about, because I have had the great, I remembered Ines McCormack, the great trade unionist. She died this day 1 year ago.
I sat on a board with Ines for 7 years. I have to say, a lovely lady. And may I add, her insight into business was phenomenal. I sat on a board, which is always, I think, the test of somebody's greatness and astuteness. Rarely ever did Ines, I don't actually think ever did I see her carry her union hat with her on that board.
No, she was able to leave it outside.
But she carried her values.
Oh, yes.
And she carried her acknowledgement of what she thought were the key issues. You're talking about a people's person. Every inch of Ines McCormack's body, every piece of blood she had, was towards trying to enhance the quality of life.
Many's the time when I was with the Independent in Belfast at the time. That's a long time ago, 40 years ago. Ines was with the trade union, and many's the cup of coffee we had, and many's the interview we did, and I found her to be exactly as you're describing.
Very, very able, very astute business brain. I mean, had friends in many high places. I mean, Ines could have lifted the phone to U.S. presidents. She was particularly close to Hillary Clinton for many years. She was obviously very involved in the origin of the women's movement. But there was so much more to Ines. Ines was a woman of great knowledge.
There's Tom coming. Greetings, Tom. How are you? Yeah, Ines, she's gone. The other person who died, I saw in the newsletter, the Irish News this morning, a man again I did a nationwide with, John Book Clancy. He was a man at a little bookshop in the middle of Belfast, and first of all in Smithfield, then at the Haymarket Arcade. Quite an eccentric old gentleman, and he died, and he passed away. But there was him, doing his thing and making his way forward.
To be honest, I didn't know him, but
lovely old man.
A couple of interesting people. You had Michael McCardle, who was the barber in Refrain for many years. He was buried the weekend.
He's gone.
And Caroline Toman, who was very active in the Burn Parish in St. Mark's School, unfortunately taken away at an early age at the weekend.
So be it.
The one sure thing is, Rowan, as you know, once we come onto this world, the only other sure thing is we're going to die at some time, and it won't respect age.
No, and we try to do as best we can and a little bit of good and be productive in the time in between.
Well, we all have to live every day as if it's our last. Thank you very much, Rowan.
God bless you. Go well.
Looking back on the memory of the dance we shared beneath the stars above. For a moment all the world was right, and how could I have known that you'd ever say goodbye?